like bullets. Very interesting.
Now, what do you?
I could use this in a sculpture.
So tell me, I mean, you just happen to come here and
There was something here
drawing you here.
calling me. Look at the beautiful pieces. Even a little of this would be interesting in a collage. Very beautiful. I promise I will use this in a piece. Very unique. Well, basically these objects just called me and I came directly straight to them. And I promised them they will be used. And they will be used in another manner. As castaways, they will be now looked upon as in glory and admiration, as opposed to just being a castaway. Give them another form of recognition.
How do you describe your art?
Spiritual, futuristic, innovative. Spiritual being number one. Well, for me, I say a prayer, and it's a thing called getting in the zone, where you allow the Holy Spirit to flow through you as you create. And for me, if I say a prayer first, I kind of sit and watch the magic happen.
Art to you is what? If you can finish that. Art to me is
Everything. It's a way of going on vacation without ever leaving home.
What is it today that would be a big influence on what piece or creation you would come up with today?
Well, basically, I'm just documenting from day to day the events that happen within my life. And I try to encompass events from the past. A good way to explain this would be when I create from an intrinsic approach as opposed to the things that I was taught in school. It's a way of releasing and becoming totally free and allowing the spirit to dictate your movements.
What you gonna do for us today?
Well, I'm gonna do something that's pretty much fun to me because I like to redesign the human figure. Then my signature. First of all, I give all credit to our creator. So before I'm able to sign my name, I usually put G-M-A-R-I. expression. And you know, you can always come back and put more detail in it. Just the emotion, the expression. This is basically a quick head study, and in this approach, I try to be as free and spontaneous as possible, but yet creating some kind of feeling in the gesture. And again, I like to redesign the human figure. There's no way you could see both side views of the ears.
As a little boy, he's way ahead of his time. The things that he was drawing when he was 5 and 6, 7, was it's something like a person 21 or 30 would be, drawing.
As a young kid, I would watch my grandfather build things with his hands. He was a carpenter. And also my grandmother was very artistically inclined.
Well, when he was a child, I guess around 6 or 7, I would look in his notebook to see how he was doing in his math. He wasn't doing too well in his math. And I'd look in his notebook, and instead of mathematics, all I would see was drawings. My sister would try to help him with his math. She would take him in her arms in her bed and try to help him with his math, and he just wasn't interested. And so I would ask him, why wasn't he doing his math? And he would say, well, Mommy, I'm going to be an artist. I'm an artist. I don't need the math. So I said, well, everybody needs a little math, Timothy.
Timothy was one of my very talented and wonderful students. And he was a very shy young man. He just sat in the back of the room and drew and drew and drew.
While being in school at Dorsey High, she gave me the key to the stock room so I could take home as much material as I wanted.
I bring in art books to school, and he would be the first one to get them, so sometimes I would borrow a very valuable book and he'd be the only one to see it because he took care of them.
She was very instrumental in helping me to win a scholarship to Chouinard's California Institute of the Arts.
Everybody in the class, any class that he was in, got to recognize the fact that he really was a star.
And as far as other people in my life that inspired me, I was born in Watts, 1827 East 105th Street, and which is right around the corner from the Watts Towers. Now, as a kid, I was fortunate enough to actually climb and play on the Watts Towers. That was an obvious form of influence.
Well, I've been watching Tim and do his work, his thing with objects, all kinds of things that he collects for years now, and every time I pass by a yard sale or something, I think, oh, I wonder if Tim could use this. Some of these amazing deals, and I looked at them and I said, it looked like something that you would use. What do you think?
Beautiful. Yeah, most definitely.
Found myself over the years collecting these things and giving it to him. As he says, he likes to give new life to old objects and repurpose things, and He hates to see things thrown in the trash that could still be used.
One of my objects that I've found or someone's given to me that I find very interesting, and I will use them in some sculpture in one form or another.
He's really into repurposing things, which I think is so amazing what he does with objects and how his creative juice gets to flowing, and he'll see something that I couldn't have possibly have seen. I've even asked him, I said, you know, how do you do what you do? And he told me that he sees an object finished in its completion before he even begins.
Timothy has this wonderful ability to kind of seek things out. You could call Timothy one of these early environmentalists on a certain level, in terms of his ability to bring life back into discarded material.
This piece is titled Several Faces, One Race. And if you look into the mirror, you will become a part of the piece. That way, no one's left out.
So you can see how these discarded materials really have a life of their own. And I think Tim is able to look at one's trash and feel the pulse of that and utilize it in the narrative in which he wants to convey, whether it be a sculptural piece or even a two-dimensional piece. He's able to convey that thought. You know, he can basically reinterpret objects.
With the cement welded on it, I will definitely use this. I feel the energy in this already. This is a beautiful piece.
Tim comes out of social realism in terms of his figurative work, his drawings, his paintings. He's one of these kind of plastic artists, but he's also doing sculpture, figurative representation earlier in his career. Again, with a level of social consciousness.
This piece was an attempt to glorify woman and womanhood. I thought it was unique to encompass these chains as part of the hair. And as you notice, all the different jewelry, which I had different friends bring to me to encompass it in the sculpture itself.
Matchsticks, anything that he found, he would use it to make art with. Just pick things up off the street, and just make art. He didn't have time to go to a store, to buy art supply store. He just found it in the streets.
All these in the chest cavity are nails. And in the base, those are all nails. Now, the title of that piece is Love Thy Neighbor.
He took his cigarette butt and he would draw on paper and the charcoal from his cigarette butt. A cigarette butt that was used. A butt is something that's been used, so it's got charcoal in the end. And he used that as a piece of charcoal to draw with. So he was showing me all of these magical techniques, how you can make art without going to the art supply store. He would take a book and paint the pages white and use that as a sketchbook instead of buying the sketchbook, and then draw in the book with the gesso pages.
The sculpture is titled Pucker Up. And the nipples on this sculpture came from two separate pieces of weathered wood. And there are images again down low where a child can relate to it. I was at NBC for 19 years, and we painted backdrops of trees and mountains and stuff like that, and we also paint sets.
It was another artist who introduced me to Tim and his work and his attitude. And at the time, I think he was working at one of the studios.
When I was working for NBC, I was known for being the best marbleizer, to make things look like marble. And I did a lot of fireplaces for like Johnny Carson, Flip Wilson, Stanford and Son, Laugh-In, Rowan & Martin's Laugh-In. It was a lot of fun things that I was lucky enough to have worked on.
Tim has a way of doing editing a lot of material, and he can get things to look like anything that he wants to get them to look like.
And there was another thing which we had to do quite frequently was wood grain. I was considered one of the best wood grainer in the business as well.
If you know Tim, he is very prolific in what he does, very passionate in what he does, and he's consistent in his language.
This is just a decorative approach to a fireplace. I love color, so there it is.
I met Tim Washington about 16 years ago when I first came to the museum. I have to interview him to find more information about one of his pieces in the permanent collection called Energy. And all I can say is it was such a delight talking to him. He uses daily objects, things that can be found anywhere, and he transforms them, puts them together, brings new meaning. And all that makes his work so different and so special. He doesn't care for trends. He can carve and paint as 18th century master, but he chooses not to do that. He wants to do something different, something that connects him more with his surroundings, and all that makes him special. And I definitely think he's just one of the best artists I know.
I must acknowledge that in terms of inspiration, that goes to our Creator. That's where I truly believe my talent came from. Sometimes I say a prayer and I watch how things develop. I find that in creating, there's numerous amount of things that get you into the spirit or into the zone. You find yourself stooping and kneeling. These are forms of acknowledging God. I did hundreds of images on the computer, and in most cases I would say a prayer and watch how the mouse dances and rotates and gyrates on the page. And I call that magic from heaven.